White people right now are referring to this period of time in America as being like 1930s Germany or like World War II or schmaltzy and all of that stuff is because honestly, we weren't taught about anything else more in depth than World War II. We got to be the heroes in World War II. That's why we got to read the Anne Frank's diary. That's why we know, quote unquote, so much about the leading up to World War II. Everything else was glossed over in your public school education. The civil rights movement, like we love MLK, but we never learned about the Tulsa massacre, right? We never learned about what led up, like how bad things were leading up to the Civil War. Like we just like heard about the Underground Railroad and it was great. And, you know, like the women's right to vote movement, like, yeah, it was like, finally they did some marches and then they got their right to vote. We never actually read about all the people in our own system who are doing horrible things to fellow people. And right now we've all been able to live in this system, people that look like me specifically, with that bubble privilege, especially if you've lived in a community where you have zero proximity to anybody from any other marginalized group at all, which there are plenty of just white community. I'm living in just a plain white community right now. It's the most white bread place ever. And coming from a diverse city like New York City and having worked on 6 continents, this is crazy to me. But I realize that the people's experience and education is the reason why they can only refer to this as being 1930s Germany. And in saying that, we all need, if you look like me, we need to get educated, because ICE showing up in Minneapolis isn't because of immigration or race. It is because white people dared to disobey. And if you think that you're protected because you live in a white community or, you know, you make 6 figures or even 7 figures, you're not, because you're not the right type of white. They are coming for you if you don't comply. The term white was made up and started being used regularly after the Bacon's Rebellion in the 1700s by white wealthy colonialists to get control of white poor farmers who were rebelling and setting things on fire. They were rebelling and setting things on fire because they were pissed off that they had to keep fighting natives for more land to farm and they were barely making any money. And the white wealthy colonialists were like, oh man, no, we shouldn't be fighting. Like, we're both white. Like, more farming and my success is your success. Sounds familiar hundreds of years later, right? That trickle-down economy, or like, you know, buy my meme coin. When at the end of the day, they have used us to be obedient and to provide cheap labor. And the moment you stop being obedient and providing cheap labor, the moment you stand up to them is the moment that you are no longer white to them, because you never were the right kind of white. It's the same reason why when the Irish and Italian first came to the United States, white Americans did not want them here because they did not want to melt into the pot. They held on to their belief system and their culture far too long. Same thing with Polish people. They were unwanted. They wanted generic white bread, no identity, and that's what we've been taught in school. We were always the hero. Nothing ever we did was ever wrong. And oh my God, now we're living in 1930s Germany. We're not. This has been happening to other communities in this country since the boat first landed here. And we've done it to all the indigenous people who have lived here before us. Like, we need to recognize that the only way we're going to get out of this is if we get a little bit uncomfortable and know that we weren't taught. And I don't fault you. I don't fault you for not knowing. This was the system that you were born into, and it created you and trained you and propagandized you to be this way. And now that it's happening to you, you're freaking out. Rightfully so. It sucks. But this has been happening. This has been our country this whole time. This isn't new. It's just new to people that look like me. And I'm sorry if this pissed anybody off. And I know I missed a lot of stuff in there. I'm just trying to talk to people that look like me to stop making references just to Germany, because honestly, this has been happening here for a very long time. And the only way we're going to get through this is if people that look like me start recognizing that this wasn't about immigrants or race. This was about wealth and power, and you are only as valuable to them in how much you will obey and how cheaply you will work. And until we recognize that the people standing to the left and right of us and beneath us are not the problem, this will never stop.